Michael Carianis here with Brent Reed and Reedy. Are you all right, mate?
No, I'm not good.
We all
no.
know you're a
I'm
Queenslander.
I'm not in a great frame of mind, Mick, and why would you rub it in like that? But anyway.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. What else do you want to talk about? What would you like to talk about then?
I'm glad you're so chipper.
You want to talk about Lachlan Galvin?
Can we just move on to game 2 and forget about game 1?
I don't think you want to move on to game 2. I don't think you want to move on to game 2.
There's something we should talk about, Lachlan. We haven't spoken enough about Lachlan.
Well, let's hit up Origin first. Like, a couple of takeaways, right?
Yeah, go. What do you got?
Firstly, what were your thoughts on the actual game?
I thought it was a bang average game. Ordinary game. Too many penalties. I think it was, 15 penalties? I mean, that's too many in an Origin game. Some of the rubbish was getting penalised. That stuff normally gets let go in Origin. And it was mistake-a-thon. Was there 21 errors?
Yeah.
So, it was a combination of... it was just very stop-start, no flow, and I didn't think it wasn't a great Origin game.
Well, Joey John said it wasn't a genuine Origin game.
It wasn't. It was like a club game. What did you think?
No, I thought it was poor. I thought we had the best Origin that we've potentially ever seen. Game 3 last year, end-to-end action, physical. It had everything.
Yeah.
And then this one was one of the worst Origin games I've seen.
Dud.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But regardless, the Blues, particularly, I thought the Blues were quite physical in that first half and completely dominated the first half. They asked a few opportunities.
Yeah.
We're talking about one of the biggest wins New South Wales have ever had in Queensland, I think. They just didn't get some of those timings right. But from the line, New South Wales were in complete control. They outmuscled Queensland, and then Queensland just had a whole lot of nothing.
Pains me to say it, Mick, but I agree with you. They just did what they had to do, New South Wales. It was pretty simple. They just stampeded Queensland through the middle of the field with Payne Haas and Isaiah Yeo. I mean, Nathan Cleary and Mitch Moses, they just had to do their job. They didn't have to do anything exceptional. Just do their job, kick the ball well, take advantage of the opportunities when they came. But, both those blokes were 6, 7 out of 10, but they didn't need to be 8, 9s because the forward pack was so dominant. Like Payne Haas, ridiculous performance. For his opening spell, I think he ran, 80-odd metres, few offloads, few tackle breaks, and Queensland had no answer. It was very disappointing.
It's so rare to see such a comprehensive win, and as you said, the halves were fine.
Yeah, they were just okay. Nothing special.
The sin bin just before half-time, what were your thoughts on it?
I had no problem with it. I think he initially was going for the ball, realised he wasn't going to get near it, and it turned into a tackle in the air. And it prevented Xavier Coates probably scoring a try. I mean, Xavier catches that, scores 9 times out of 10. So I'm sure you'll go the other way.
No, I don't think it was a sin bin.
Why?
Because he's getting penalised for being short, for not having a
reach.
So,
why can't he stand the ground and stop him scoring?
Because he attempted to get the ball.
It was an attempt to get the ball. What he did.
No, I just think that...
Do you think he tackled him in the air?
Not really. I think it was a contest.
Are you fair dinkum?
I think it was a contest.
Oh, you're a gibber.
I think it was a contest.
How did he contest by grabbing him around the chest? How's that contesting the ball?
Because they sort of just jostled. And it happens.
Crap that is.
I don't think it was a sin bin. I don't think it was.
So you don't think he tackled him in the air?
Not really.
Not really. That's not overly convincing. Take your blue hat or whatever it is you've got on, your blue singlet. That's not even blue. Take whatever blue you got on and look at it through objective eyes, Mick.
I don't think it was a sin bin. No, I would have been quite comfortable for it not to have been a sin bin. Look, it didn't matter because you guys. New South Wales could have had 10 players and you wouldn't have won.
Oh, that's an embarrassing comment.
So let's throw forward to game 2.
Yeah.
Queensland, we pick and stick. We're Queenslanders.
No, mate. This is such rubbish.
You're Queenslanders.
No.
Are you not Queenslanders?
We are, according to Billy, we're Queenslanders. But you don't pick and stick when you lose.
Okay.
When you're coming off a losing series and you lose, then you don't pick and stick.
Okay.
This is where you blokes don't get it.
No, we get it. We don't stick with anyone.
You don't get it, mate.
We don't stick with anyone. And we've won. There'll be changes for game 2.
You earn loyalty. You earn loyalty through winning. So when you lose, pick and stick goes out the window.
Sure.
So every man for himself,
who's
baby.
Out? Who's out the window? What changes?
Can I talk about who might come in?
Well,
and then we'll talk about.
Well, they're one and the same. But
They sort of are. I imagine Corey Horsburgh's got to come in. We need a bit of fire and brimstone in the middle of the field.
How he wasn't in there in the first place was...
I imagine maybe Trent Liero gets chopped.
Yeah.
Maybe a start by Firma on edge. I mean, I've been mulling this one over. Maybe a start by Firma on edge because Ruben Cotter's not really an edge player. And then I would stick with Daly.
Yep.
Because I think he's earned that. But I think you make it very clear.
Do you earn it if you've lost series?
Well, he's won a lot of series.
Okay.
I think you make it very clear. And he's a captain. I think you make it very clear if they lose this next game, see you later, pal, we're starting again. So this is it. It's make or break Daly.
All right, let's rewind a little bit. I don't know how they didn't have Corey Horsburgh on their side to begin with, and I would also have Jaden Sewer in that
He's
Queensland
another
side.
alternative, yeah.
Because...
But both Fermor was on the bench, Mick. Got hardly any minutes. Why would you shove him in the starting side?
I'd probably... I'm happy to start with Bo and have Sewer off the bench, right? I think there's just... That bench was horrific from Queensland. Just offered nothing. Yeah. And that was always the concern. You look at that New South Wales bench and there was guys that had spark and would have potentially changed the game. And even Max King came on with some leg speed and did a really good job, right? That Queensland bench was horrid. Yeah. So Sewer, Horsburgh, straight in for mine. I think Cobbo probably needs to be in as well with a bit of spark.
Who are you getting rid of?
Valentine Holmes.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think he should have been in there. And the other one, I'd be picking Dane Gagai ahead of Valentine Holmes. I've got no issue with the way Gagai's been playing for the Newcastle Knights.
But you're not, though. You're picking Cobbo, yeah?
Well, I
don't have a problem
with. So Toya keeps his spot,
Toya's got to keep his spot.
Right, so I'd pick...
Tuilungi's not back, right?
No, I don't think so. No, Ben Hunt's not back, because they had that great 1-2 punch.
I would pick Kurt Mann on the bench. And potentially start the game with Kurt Mann.
So we're talking here now. We're talking 3, 4...
At least 3.
Changes.
Maybe 4. Yeah.
You know.
Well, the scoreline flattered them. They got belted.
Yeah.
So, and I think Harry had it's hard for Harry, right? He had one game in 6 weeks or something. But he's traditionally played his best in Origin, I think, when Ben Hunt's maybe started the game he's come in after 20 minutes. So I don't mind the idea. I don't know, has Kurt Mann played any hooker? I don't know.
He's played everywhere. Yeah. He's played everywhere, right? Hasn't played a lot of hooker for... hasn't played any hooker
so either Ruben Cotter or Kurt Mann, they start the game with them at hooker, bring Harry on after 20, boom. Game over. Queensland 1-1 Perth.
I think you got to start with
Billy.
Dearden. I think you got to start with Dearden. I like the way Dearden... There was a couple
Start with Dearden at hooker?
No, at half.
So you get rid of Daly?
Yeah, I think so.
You're punting him?
After that performance.
Wow.
I think the whole spine were horrific for Queensland.
Oh, it was
the
awful,
1, 6, 7, 9, which were, I thought, coming into the game where you thought they might have had the edge was around those guys. But aside from Cam Munster, the other 3 players have been poor at Clubland this year.
Yeah.
Kalen hasn't reached any great heights. DCE, has had his most inconsistent year ever.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've got Harry Grant, who, as you said, hasn't played a lot of footy at the moment.
He's been good. He's been good, though.
He's been good, but hasn't played a lot of footy over the last couple of weeks, right? And then you've got Munster, who's had a good year.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think with Queensland, for the first time in a long time, club form has flowed into the Origin arena.
Yeah.
And, Lindsay Collins hasn't played a lot of footy, hasn't really made a dent for the Roosters this year.
Can I throw this here, Mick? So if you decide to keep Daly, I think you got to make it very clear to him, Daly, sort your future out.
Okay.
You got 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Finalise this rubbish that he's been going on with for weeks and weeks at a time. We all know he's going to the Roosters.
You reckon he's not distracted by it? He's
not. Has he played well since he made that call?
No, he hasn't. But I don't know if it's
Just
father. I don't know if it's
the rubbish, mate.
I don't know if it's father time, Reedy, or it's
end the rubbish.
Just
make a decision,
player.
mate.
I don't know. I don't think he's distracted.
He's the captain of the state.
I will say about Dearden, when he came on. And I know he's playing dummy half, but there was a couple of times he found himself at first or second receiver. He dug deep into the line and created something that wasn't there for Queensland.
Okay.
So I just think his speed and...
She's spearing Daly Cherry Evans.
It's not alone. There's a few I'm getting rid of.
Wow.
So...
You won't be happy in our NFL fantasy chat.
He's had a good run. Oldest Queenslander.
It's a big call, mate. It's his biggest decision, Billy. I think of all the decisions he's got to make, that's
because there's no turning back.
That's the biggest call. Well, once he's gone, you're gone. You move on.
Yeah.
So it's a huge call for him. Daly's got to come out this weekend, play well for Manly, play well next week, and you never know with injuries either. You don't declare it now because maybe Dearden gets injured the next fortnight, and then you got to stick with Daly anyway. But it's a huge call.
Yeah,
to get rid of a guy like that who's done so much for the state for so long. He's your skipper. Who's your captain then, Harry?
Well, you're going to start him off the bench.
I know.
So Carrigan wasn't great last night.
No.
So I'm not sure. That's your problem.
KP, he wasn't great either.
No.
Anyway, we'll bounce back, mate. We've got an awesome record in Perth. Our record in Perth's horrific.
3-0, baby. Here we come. Round 13. Ready? It starts with Dragons, Knights. Your man, Kalen Ponga. We'll see if he backs up and what sort of performance he plays. But I'm really intrigued by the two most frustrating, inconsistent, hard to get a read sides for this year. Well, for Manly, it's been a while. Manly v the Broncos.
Terrible.
Who wins? How do they win? No Tom Trbojevic, no Jake Trbojevic, no Takiaho, who's been really good for him in a position that's been weak in terms of Manly's
Because
middle.
no Paseka as well.
Yeah, and no Reece Walsh still for the Broncos. You mentioned Daly Cherry Evans and what he needs to do to keep his Queensland jersey. What do you make of this game at Brookie?
I reckon the Broncos probably get home by virtue of the fact you got no Tommy, no Jake, and they're so short with their middles, Manly. But it's hard to pick because, as you said, they've been all over the shop. Two sides that have been hugely inconsistent. I mean, Brisbane, when they're on, we've seen them belt the Roosters. They belted the Bulldogs, and they've lost games they should win. And Manly have been much the same, right? 2 weeks ago, they go to Townsville and win. Then it turned out against Parramatta and they play awfully. So it's a really hard game to pick. But I just think Manly got so many out at the moment that I just think Brisbane might have the wood on them.
Who's been the more disappointing this year?
Oh, I think probably Brisbane.
Yeah.
You know, they've been, obviously with Madge coming in, I think there was this expectation that they would turn it on under Madge. Just hasn't happened. As I said, there's been weeks they've looked unbelievable, so good. And there's been weeks they've looked diabolical.
Yeah. So
I think, but it's a split hair between them, Mick. They've both been all over the shop.
Tip?
Well, I think Brisbane will win. What do you think?
Brisbane too, yeah, Brisbane as well.
Manly are so frustrating.
But I'm not tipping either of these sides with Andy. Manly, I wrote a couple of weeks ago, they are the most frustrating side in the NRL. And but they're closely followed by the Broncos, I think, in terms of, you know, these sides good and their best and where I think they could both get to. I think Brisbane should have been a top 4 side, and I had Manly probably at 5th or 6th.
Well, they could both finish. I mean, the point is the comps, apart from the top 3 sides,
but they're so far off.
It's so tight, isn't it? But
they're so far off where they need to get to, both sides.
I just keep waiting for. I just got this feeling at some point it's just going to click for Brisbane, but I think it every week and it doesn't happen. At some point it gets too late, right? And obviously all the rumblings coming out of there about players being unhappy and. You know, when you lose, that stuff becomes, those noises get louder and louder and it becomes more of a distraction and then it becomes even harder to turn your season around. So they're in this sort of death spiral at the moment, Brisbane. They need to get themselves out of it.
Big news, Reedy, in Sport Confidential around Dom Young's future. That story is now on Code Sports and the Daily Telegraph. He'll be at the Knights before June 30.
This is your baby, Mick, yeah. Obviously this has been on again, off again, on again, off again. Looks like it's on again. And I think it was always going to happen because the Roosters were happy letting go and Newcastle wanted him. So he'd be a handy signing for the Knights. They looked reasonably good last week, the Knights. Stick Dom Young in that team. And he scored a lot of tries when he was there in his previous life. So handy pickup.
What do you make of the Knights long term? Like the criticism around them has been their predictability with the football, their inability to score points. But if you've got a backline in 2026 of Ponga, Marzu, Young, maybe Gagai, Best, Sharp, Brown. Surely there's points there.
I would say though, Mick, you look at the Queensland backline the other Wednesday night in Origin, great looking backline, but their 4-pack got smashed and they got hammered.
Yep.
So it's all well and good having a brilliant backline, but you look at that forward pack, they're losing Leo Thompson.
Yeah.
We've seen that forward pack this
Adam
year.
Elliott's off contract.
Yeah, Heather Intern, all those guys.
Yeah.
So unless they sign some forwards, it doesn't matter how good their backline is, they're going to battle.
All right, let's stick with the positive. Do you think that backline brings...
Oh, mate,
it brings some spark, right, compared to what's been in the last 2 seasons.
We've seen Sharp's dynamic, right, can create something out of nothing. Dylan Brown's been a bit off at power, but he's got, historically, he's been a really, really good player. Kalen's been a bit off, but we know what Kalen can do. You said it, Dom Young's a try scorer, Bradman Best an Origin player. The backline's probably, you could argue it's as good as any backline in the comp. Next year when Dylan Brown arrives. So
you're right,
there's points in them.
Back, but
you've got to have forwards, man.
Yeah.
You've got to have middles. Jacob Safidi can't do it on his own.
Yeah.
We've seen that.
I agree.
So they need to go shopping. I don't think they've got any money left, though, have they, Mick?
They've got a little bit because they've been in the market, not at the top end, but they've been in the market for Palou. Yeah. They missed Finau that went from the Dragons to the Bulldogs next year. So they have been in the market for a middle because they had the Leo Thompson money, right? Like that they wanted to keep and they haven't replaced him. So but there's just no middles out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of signings, Lachlan Galvin, Bulldog, ends up at the Dogs. Next will play.
We haven't spoken about this enough.
Well, you've been all over it. Chances are that he makes his Canterbury debut against Parramatta on the King's birthday. So there'll be 50,000 plus for that game. Is it at Stadium Australia? I'm assuming it is.
I can't remember.
If it's there, it'd be 50,000.
I think it is actually. Yeah, it is.
It'd be 50,000 plus there. So another bumper crowd for a Bulldogs game.
I think he's a great signing for them. I think I've said all season, I think their spines lacked star power, and he's got the potential to be an absolute superstar in this game. So you stick him in that spine. I'm not sure if he'll start straight away. I think he'll come off the bench initially. But he's going to add something to them. There's no doubt about that. And obviously, playing against Parramatta, it's very fitting because Para thought they had him.
Yeah.
As late as Friday night, they thought they had a deal done with Lachlan Galvin in his camp for him to go there this year. And obviously over the weekend, the landscape changed. He went to the Bulldogs. So sort of fitting he's up against Parramatta. But yeah, I think he's a great signing for the Dogs.
That is at Accor Stadium with 50,000 people there. Does the Burton Galvin combination work?
I think they'll make it work. And they're smart footballers, and Cam Sorrello's a really, really smart coach, so they'll find a way to make it work. Your concerns over it?
No, not really, because I think people are blinded by Lachie Galvin's size, and because he's a big body, traditionally that's not a halfback, right?
Yeah.
But we know one of the issues at the Tigers was how much he wanted his hands on the ball and how much he wanted to take control. Well, that's what a 7 does.
Yeah.
So I don't think from that point of view it's going because Matt Burton can't run the team, right? We've seen that. That's not his strength. His strength is when he's running and freed up to run and kick and that sort of stuff, right? So I think Lachie can run a side, but lots of pressure, lots of expectation, and never before have we seen the team come in first. Halfback gets cut essentially in poor Toby Sexton, but there's a little bit to play out here. I think it's going to be all eyes on Lachie Galvin on Monday week.
I think everyone talks about the thing with Lachie Galvin's his footy IQ, Mick. Everyone you talk to about him say he's a footy head, got great footy IQ. So, if he's that smart, I'm sure he can pick up playing halfback. I don't think it'll be a problem for him. Might take a bit of time, though, to fit into that system, but by September, and they'll be in the finals, I would imagine, unless they collapse.
They'll be in the finals.
But they'll be in the finals. And by September, he should be hitting his straps, and they're going to be dangerous.
What does this mean for the Tigers, Reedy? They got Heath Mason playing in the halves this week. Don't think he's going to be their long-term solution there, but what do you make of the Galvin news from the Tigers' point of view?
Well, obviously Latu Fanu's been in the wings waiting for a while now. Mick, he's just had some injury problems, hammies and thumb injuries, and they've kept him out. I think he's out another week, and that's why obviously Mason gets first crack, but he's been earmarked for big things for a long time now. A bit of a teenage prodigy, so he seems like he's next in line, I'd imagine. But, there's obviously been rumours around Adam Reynolds, and I'm sure they're out in the marketplace scouring what's out there, but Fanu seems the obvious one.
Interesting, Adam Dewey in the halves this week. He's probably an option for him as well, but they'll start with Heath, and I think, this is Jarome's time now, right, to step up and really guide this side and, take on, he wanted to carry the burden of being the main man, and he gets that opportunity now.
Yeah, I think at times this year he's shown he can be that man. I don't think he's been great this year, Jarome. I think he's been good without being great. But obviously the Galvin situation, he was in the centre of all that. Now the Galvin situation's removed, it frees him to just be the man, as you said. And he'll dictate where they finish this season.